We like to help people look good, feel good, and sleep better. Right.
Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Michael Nuggins. He's the founder of Feel Good Nation. It's a biohacking lab that's here in Sydney, in the heart of Sydney, the most beautiful city in the world, on the planet, and in the suburb of Leichhardt. Welcome.
Cheers, thank you. All right.
So, Michael, would you mind tell us a little bit about your lab?
Yeah, sure. So Feel Good Nation, it started off as one thing and over time slowly evolved. Yeah. But basically the premise is we like to help people look good, feel good, and sleep better. Mm-hmm. We started off as a float center, although we don't do floats anymore. We have infrared saunas, so heat shock. We've got cryotherapy, so cold, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, Normatec boots, which is like compression, so lymphatic drainage. Mm-hmm. And also we have red light or photobiomodulation, depends on how much of a nerd you are.
Oh, so what would you say is a typical clientele for you?
There's no like one thing. Mm-hmm. We get all sorts coming through because especially every service they do their own thing, right? And so someone will come in, say, for the Normatec because their legs hurt. Oh, I've worked in retail all day or whatever it is in a bar. They come in for a leg massage. I went for a run, got a leg massage. They're completely different spectrums.
Yep.
And then you've got hyperbaric where some people are coming in going, I've got cancer. I've heard this is good for it. Let's do something. So we have a whole range of different people.
So in terms of age, are they mostly young people, or is there a particular demographic that tend to use these services?
It really does range. It's hard to say, this is what we do, this is the person. I wish we could, because it's much easier to market. However, I've got people as young as 8 coming in with...
8?
Yeah, wow. So like a mother brings in an autistic child and, she actually did a mini video for us today, and she was like, besides talking about how she's been recovering in the chamber, she's talking about how her son, ASD, so like he's nonverbal, autistic, and now he's trying to communicate a lot more. Mm-hmm. He's still not there yet communicating fully verbally, but he is trying a lot harder now.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, I've had people in here up to 80 years old, doing hyperbaric or cryo, different things for different ailments.
Nice. So what would you say is the most popular?
Probably the sauna.
Sauna?
Yeah,
okay.
Sauna, it's one of those things, it's kind of a fad right now where everyone's just trying to get the heat shock proteins. Yeah. The funny thing is, like, cryotherapy also activates heat shock proteins because cold is actually just the absence of heat. Mm-hmm. It's just part of the spectrum. Yeah. So it's funny that it releases heat shock protein and people are like, oh no, the cold shock proteins. You're like, okay. But yeah, it's different form of heat.
Yeah. Either way, like for me, I think what made the most amount of difference for me was actually doing both, hot and cold, because I think they work a little bit different. And if you get, like I'm so jealous of you. You got this, you can just jump in any time. Yeah. Whereas I have a sauna. Mm-hmm. I have an ice bath. Yep. But it's just not the same. It's not. Yeah. It's not the same.
What type of sauna do you have?
Infrared.
Yep. Cool.
Infrared. It's one of the carbon-based infrared sauna. Okay. So the carbon panels.
Yeah. Do you know which brand it is?
It was not an expensive brand.
Yep.
But it was one that's low radiation, so that was what I'm looking for. And also, when you're looking at sauna, I look for the wood that's untreated, and they're not like chemical. Like you don't want the chemicals inside. You don't want any of those ply boards and like MDF, those boards inside. Yeah, yeah. So I kind of look for the criteria within the budget, and that's what I invested in, and that's the job. Yeah. I wish it would go hotter. Mm-hmm. How hot does do you think? I know it's infrared, but how hot does it get?
It's funny you say that because I've been going less towards the heat recently. I've been going more towards just using the light. Yep. And let me caveat that I'm not talking about red light. Yeah. I'm talking about like the infrared panels, like the actual heaters. Yeah. So I have seen it get up to 71. Mm-hmm. But in saying that, like, you can set it at 80. Yeah. It's not the point of an infrared sauna. Yeah. I always tell everyone, it's like, just say you're cooking, okay? For the people who eat meat, I'm going to use a steak analogy. we can use the same thing without using meat, but it's easier to visualize.
Yeah. Traditional
sauna, you're cooking a steak. Hot and fast, medium rare, right? Like, you're getting in, you're getting out, you're done.
Yeah.
Very quick. Infrared sauna, you're going low and slow. It's a slow cooker.
Yeah.
Right?
Sous vide.
Yeah, sous vide, things like that. Maybe not that slow, but the point of the slow cooker is you're tenderizing the brisket.
Yeah.
Right? So are you cooking a steak, you're cooking a brisket. At the end of the day, you're still cooking it to however you like it. But it's just a very different experience.
But is that why it smells so nice after a sauna session?
Absolutely. Bit of barbecue sauce, it's just lovely.
I'm curious though, it's not every day, you ask any school kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? Astronaut, fireman, policeman. But you decided to start a biohacking lab for whatever reason. So what got you into it?
Yeah, it just kind of fell in place. It was a bit of an accident. And when timelines get pushed out and things change and you adapt, it ended up bringing me to where I am now. So originally I was working like nightclubs and bars. I like to think I'm generally a pleasant person, but I was like ready to kill somebody. You know what I mean?
Right,
like I was like pretty angry. Like road rage is, you ain't seen nothing.
Yeah.
Lucky they don't have guns in Australia.
Yeah.
So, I was quite an angry person, and then I did a float. And so it was like a Friday night. Went into this place, did a float, came out. It was 5 p.m. on a Friday on Oxford Street. Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
Just for context, like Oxford Street is just next to the city. It's quite a busy place in Sydney.
That's where you get king hit.
Yeah.
That's where you go.
That's it. At that time anyway, not anymore. Sydney's very placid now. But at that time it was like chaos, right? Came out, before I went in, like I said, road rage, I was just ready to kill someone.
Yeah.
I came out, I drove home without music. Now, for context as well, I managed nightclubs, I worked in bars, I was in the entertainment and nightlife industry.
Yeah.
So driving without music is weird.
Yes.
Right? Like all you want is music to wash out everything in your life at the time. So drove home, no music, waving people in, yeah, cool. Letting him in, just didn't care. I was like super chill. I was like that for a week.
Hang on.
One float.
Hang on, that's interesting. So you're feeling angry and you just decided to go and do a float?
I heard they were good and I was like, I just want to try this thing out.
Okay.
I'm like, whatever. Had zero expectations. I'm like, I'm going to get bored. This is going to be shit. Like, fuck this. Did it anyway. And then came out and I was like, oh, okay, this is weird.
Okay.
And the next week I did another float. For another week, I was happy again. I was like, okay, A, I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
And B, like things need to change. Like, because I like this version of me better than, 2 weeks ago me.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then trying to open my own place, went around, tried everyone else out nearby and in other states.
Yeah.
So in Australia, our states are like 10 hours apart.
Yes.
So I drove to Melbourne and Queensland. Right.
Wow.
And I went to like anywhere from 6 to 10 different places in each of those states. And I was like, hey, how's it like running a float center? And like, some of them were really friendly. Like, most people in the float industry are very, very nice, very friendly.
Yeah.
They were happy to share everything. They're like, oh, you're not my competition. Sure, here's everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you got a sauna here? Oh, you got cryo? And like, I just kind of pieced everything together.
Right. Okay. So for those of you who don't know a float, can you explain what a float is?
Yeah, sure. A float is also known as like a sensory deprivation tank or a REST tank. I can't remember what that stands for, like restricted environmental stimulus.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Basically, you go in. The one I went in was a pod. Nowadays, there's pools. I hate pools. I like pods specifically. When you go in the pod, there's probably like 30 centimeters of water. For the Americans, that's 12 inches. And it's quite shallow, but there's so much salt in the water that you're quite buoyant.
Yes.
You're a bit like a cork in water.
Yeah.
Right? You float. You can't sink. People always would try to sink themselves. They never could. And so the water is full of magnesium sulfate. So it's like Epsom salts. That's why you come out feeling like super relaxed and chill.
Yep.
That's why I didn't want to kill anyone. Yeah, and it's just because your senses are deprived, so there's no sound, no light, so you can't see.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh no, I can't control my environment. No, you got a light switch there. You close the lid when you're ready to however you want to close it.
Yeah.
Like you're in complete control of the environment. But yeah, so once you restrict the senses, your mind can process all its thoughts. So it's like forced meditation on steroids and an Epsom salt bath on steroids in one.
Nice. So I guess a lot of people, when they first hear of this concept of sensory deprivation, right, they've got this fear: what happens if they drown? What happens if they can't? If they just freak out and they want to get out of the place. So what you're saying is that's not an issue because you're in complete control of your environment. You decide when you want to get in, when you want to get out.
Yep.
And it's basically impossible to drown.
Yeah. So there's no one in the room, just you. So no one's got a gun to your head.
Yeah.
So if you're in the water, like, yeah, I'm done, you can just get out, right? So if you're in a pool, for example, you stand up. If you're in a pod, you just push the lid, which is spring-loaded to open.
Yep.
Like it's hard to close, it's easy to open.
Yep.
So you just push it a bit, it opens itself.
Yep.
So yeah, you literally get in and out whenever you want. Most of them have a light switch in the room or something to turn the light on.
Yep.
So some places are sensor light, but in the pod itself that I had, there's a button next to your head. You press that, turns the light on. On the other side, you press that button, and that one was an emergency button. Yeah. So it would alert the staff and they'd come to see what's happening. So like, you can always communicate with people, and you control everything.
Cool. So you discover float, change your life, you feel more peaceful, and then you start talking to these clinics and find out there's all these different things. Now, for a lot of people, they might still think, still really kind of out there. What made you decide that this is kind of a business idea that you want to kind of go right into?
There's a lot of little things and catalysts along the way. Okay, so I knew saunas, for example. I was a little bit into biohacking at that stage, not massively.
Yeah.
At that time, I'd only really heard of like Ben Greenfield.
Yes.
And the topic of saunas came up quite frequently.
Yeah.
Saunas reduce all-cause mortality by 1,000,000%. Like, all these ridiculous claims, whatever else.
Yeah.
It has to be a normal sauna, not an infrared sauna. Oh, infrared sauna's better. I'm like, okay, this is too much information, but like, I like to just dive head first into things and then work it out afterwards.
Okay.
It kind of gets me into trouble quite often.
Yeah.
But sometimes it works out, So I ended up going, all right, sauna makes sense. Let's just get that.
Yeah.
Then I went, not long before that, I'd gone on a hike. And on the hike, we went to the Blue Mountains. Now, I was with some friends from work, and they were not as healthy as I thought I was. Right? So I'm like, oh, I'm way more fit. I can do everything, blah, blah, blah. On the walk, one or two people were struggling a little bit. A couple of people were fine. We get to this waterfall. And so we went to this waterfall in the Blue Mountains. And like I said, a couple of people were not as healthy as I thought I was. And we get to the waterfall and they run in the water. They start mucking around, having fun, all these things. I took one step in and my foot cramped.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't handle the cold.
Right.
And it wasn't cold.
Yeah.
It was just mountain cold.
Yeah.
Right. So my foot cramped. I got out and I was like, okay, cramp went away. Let's try this again.
Yeah.
Stepped in the water again, cramp. So I sat on the sideline watching them have fun in the fucking waterfall.
Oh, wow.
For about half an hour.
Yeah.
After that, I had the shits. I can get quite competitive with certain things.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, no, I have to overcome this bullshit with the cold. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't handle it, but I need to overcome this and take it to the next level. So then I discovered Wim Hof.
Oh, right. All the way to the guy that jumped in with the glaciers and the iceberg and...
Like I said, 0 to 100. Like I just 2 feet, in the deep end.
Okay.
So I get into Wim Hof and I start getting into cold therapy and I decide, hey, some other places have cryotherapy. I should add this to my shop as well as I'm building it.
Okay.
So this is like halfway through building. I'm like, I'm getting cryo now.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So
you were already on the way planning a flotation place, and then you decided, okay, let's just add.
Let's just add it in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I hadn't filled up all the space. Like I got quite a large space.
Yeah.
As we'll see later on. And I was like, okay, for these rooms, I'll do floats. For that one, I'll do sauna. These ones, I'll do something else. Let's make up our mind as we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, cryo was the next thing to add on.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the next thing after that was Normatec.
Yep.
That's the compression boots originally designed for lymphatic drainage.
Yep.
And I saw that at a place. So they had cryotherapy.
Yeah.
They had Normatec.
Yep.
They had a float tank in a shitty room. And I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Later on, they actually got a sauna as well. So it looked like I copied them completely. But I actually got the saunas before them.
Okay.
It's just I didn't open until much later. So it looked like I literally copied them piece by piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was how I put all that together.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you have a lot of people come through, and you talked about the lady with autism and how his child is on the spectrum and he's now able to speak more. Right, he's making more of an attempt to connect with people.
Yeah, he's not fully talking.
Yeah.
Although occasionally he'll throw out a word and it just throws you off.
Right.
Like one day he got out of the chamber and was like, "Hey."
Oh wow.
I was just like, I was confused. I was like, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
Like when I studied for hyperbarics, my teacher mentioned that a lot of kids with ASD, their first word is in a chamber.
Right.
And so like when that happened and he came out and said it, I was like, I know it's not a big word.
Yeah.
Right. But prior to that, like he normally just runs around and screams and makes noises.
Yeah.
He actually put a word in front of me, like perfect timing. It was just weird.
Wow. That must be really like quite a moment even for the mum to be able to hear that.
She wasn't there that time. It was actually a carer.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So in Australia, we have this thing, the NDIS.
Yes.
And it's the National Disability
Insurance Scheme.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And so people with an autistic child can get support.
Yeah.
And so the support worker brought him in that day.
Right, okay.
So yeah, it was quite an interesting day.
Wow. So of the devices or the various tech that you have, what would you say is one that seems to making the biggest impact in people?
It's very difficult to say, this is the one thing. Yeah. They all have their own, let's say, they all have their own utility. For example, look, the hyperbaric, that's my favorite thing now. I've done the most study in it of late. And I'm more and more convinced every day that that thing is the most ridiculous thing that everyone should probably do at some stage in their life. When, don't know, but I think everyone should do it, especially here and there. That one, I had a lady coming in with cancer. Later on, she was cancer-free. This wasn't the only thing she was doing. She was doing a laundry list of different things. But she said this helped her out heaps. Two of my friends have, I'm not going to say the word, but it was when this thing happened, an injury, we can't say the word. They had heart conditions and they got almost back to normal after a course of treatments.
With infrared?
No, with the hyperbaric.
Hyperbaric, yes.
Yeah. So like that thing by far is the most ridiculous thing in here.
Yeah.
Second would be red light, and then probably infrared sauna, cryo, then Normatec. But they're all good in their own way. Yeah.
Because that's always what I'm being curious with, right? Because you own the whole place.
Yeah.
You've got the whole, it's a toy shop for me, right? So you could have picked anything, So I'm always curious, like which one do you think would you consider is the most impactful for your clients and for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you did quite a lot of study into the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. So can you just give like a short primer? What is it and how does it work?
Sure. God, it's really hard to like condense all the information into like a sound bites. Basically, more baric pressure, oxygen therapy. hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT or HBOT, let's just call it HBOT because it's easier. It's actually a double treatment. There's pressure and there's oxygen. Okay. Depending on your system will depend on how much pressure you can give and how much oxygen percentage you can deliver. Right now we're breathing roughly 21% oxygen in the air. When we're doing HBOT or HBOT, you can get it up to 100%. Okay, just depends on your system. Now, my system's quite good. It goes to almost, let's just say, 2 atmospheres. So right now we're sitting at sea level. And 1 meter underwater, if you were diving, is 1.1 atmospheres. 2 meters is 1.2. So 2 atmospheres is about 10 meters underwater. Okay, 33 feet of seawater. And at 2 atmospheres, you're essentially getting like double the oxygen, you know? That's just with the pressure. 21% oxygen out here, you can get it close to 100% in the chamber through a mask. If you're doing 21% versus 100%, it's roughly 5 times. Okay? System I have isn't perfect currently. The new one I'm getting soon is a lot better. That'll be closer to the 100%. But this one, let's say it roughly gets to about 80%. That's still about 4 times the amount of oxygen. So times 2 times 4, it's almost 8 times the oxygen. Your body can't absorb oxygen past 100% unless you add pressure. So if we've all been to the hospital before, they put that clip on your finger and there's a number on the screen. It's like
100%.
96 to 98. It never really gets to 100.
No.
So if you're breathing like pure oxygen through a bottle, right? So 100% oxygen, you can only get it to about 100%. You can't really pump it into the plasma. When you're under pressure, you can force it into the plasma at much higher concentrations.
You talk about oxygen getting into blood, right? You need the pressure and the oxygen. So what's the benefit of having all that extra oxygen in your body?
There's a lot of things. First of all, we have pressure sensors and we have oxygen sensors. Hyperbaric's been shown to affect over 8,000 different genes. So it's quite fascinating. Some people say the absence of oxygen leads to disease. So if you have oxygen, then disease can't start. Somewhat disagree with that to some degree, but in general, the premise is quite sound. We have this thing called the electron transport chain, and across that system, we can create energy in certain spots. The final step in that process is oxygen. So if you're pumping in more oxygen, you're able to create more energy. If you can create more energy, everything seems to work better. Usually. I suppose, you know, because it's so fundamental to your cellular energy production. Therefore, if you boost that, maybe that's why there's so many benefits associated with that, because it's basically boosting your entire biological action in energy generation. So your immune system works better, right? Your ability to stay focused work better. Your brain works better. You can heal. And I think there's a lot of research. Maybe you can share a little bit about that. People with mold and tend to have brain fog or brain focus issues, sometimes depression, sometimes really, really vivid nightmares. People with traumatic brain injuries. I've heard that they've all experienced benefit from hyperbaric oxygen. Is that right? Or usually. The brain stuff, definitely. A lot of people feel benefit. Mold is interesting because some people might get a Herxheimer response. So they shortened it to Herx, H-E-R-X. And that's like a detox thing. If you detox too much and your body can't handle it, you feel like shit. You know, that's the very short, blunt way of saying, you know, you can have too much detox in a bit. And that's what you can get from hyperbaric with mold or Lyme especially. So you just need to factor that in and think about it, because some people push through it. Some people, they believe, no, you should just titrate it to get to the point where you can handle it and then slowly build it up. Everyone's different. Like, people have tried all different things and some work for some people better than others. It also comes down to your constitution. You know, if you're severely affected by mold and Lyme, you know, you might already have chronic fatigue, and then adding in this Herx response, it's just like, this is too much for me. That person's not going to push through. You know.
So what does Herx stand for?
Herxheimer.
Yeah.
It was named after a dude. That's probably one of the worst things to be named after. Like I said, it's basically a detox reaction where you've been detoxing too much that your body can't handle it.
Yeah.
With regards to hyperbaric in general, it helps so many different conditions. If I just explain a couple of the mechanisms of action, you'll probably understand why it helps so many different things. So basically, it helps the body release stem cells. Stem cells are a basic building block. They help everything. So more of those equals helpful. It's got angiogenesis, which means it'll help you grow new blood vessels. Okay. It also has neurogenic effect. So you can grow new nerve tissue, including brain tissue. Just those three things there, if you have that happening, can you understand why it can help almost everything? Yeah. Like you can look at a list of different things that hyperbaric has been shown to treat or be helpful with. And the list is quite inexhaustive. It just keeps going. The only thing that's like a definite no, do not do this no matter what is if you have a hole in your lung, so a pneumothorax. All the other relative contraindications are usually like a caution rather than a contraindication. It's like you can probably still do it at a lower pressure, build up, and it's going to be helpful.
Okay. Sounds awesome. Infrared. That's all the rage. A lot of people talk about infrared sauna. So in terms of infrared, what do you think makes it so impactful for those people?
Just want to confirm we're talking infrared, not red light. Infrared
sauna with red light. So what you have in your clinic, is that one that's combined or that's separate?
I have them separate. So I've got a ridiculous red light bed. So that's usually classified as photobiomodulation. And I've also got a very high-end infrared sauna. Infrared sauna, I think it's quite the rage because, as I said before, it's low and slow. It's a lot more comfortable. Okay. Humans, we're supposed to get hot, we're supposed to get cold, we're supposed to sweat. All these things are like natural and normal in everyday life prior to like the Industrial Revolution. Once we started to live in, you know, houses and everything else, we weren't really affected by the climate as much. You know, we're creatures of comfort. I've met people who their aircon runs 24/7.
Seriously, right?
Wow. Pussies. You know, we're supposed to get hot, we're supposed to get cold. Right. And so the sauna is a nice, comfortable way of doing that. When you exercise, you're supposed to get hot and sweat. A lot of people exercise in air conditioning and don't go very hard. You know, so they don't ever sweat. Sweating's a natural detox pathway. We're supposed to get shit out of us via that mechanism pretty much every day. And so people are slowly building up toxins and then never getting rid of it unless they exercise hard or jump in a sauna.
So you're basically saying this is kind of giving our body what we should be doing naturally, except we live in such an artificial controlled environment that our body is no longer exposed to these things that we should be exposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think, like I said, we're all a bunch of pussies. You know, we just need to face a little bit more hardship and do things a little bit with more intensity.
So what would you say is the difference between red light and infrared? Because people hear the word red, they think same, right?
It's literally the discussion I have every fucking day. All right, so the infrared sauna is this spectrum. The red light bed is this spectrum. Okay, they overlap in the middle. So yes, partially the same. That's the near infrared section. But then with the infrared sauna, you got like near infrared and far infrared and mid infrared. With red light therapy, you've got different colors, right? In general, infrared you can't really see until it gets to that red section. But yeah, so there's overlap, but they're different. The easy way to explain it is infrared sauna is more about getting you hot. Red light therapy is more about giving your cells energy. Okay, so even though they overlap, they're completely different experiences as well.
So how would people choose which one they should be doing?
Geez, that's where the fun comes in.
Yeah.
You know, how many questions do we want to ask beforehand? Do you sweat? No. Okay. If you don't ever sweat, just do a fucking sauna.
Yeah.
Do you need more energy? Do a red light. You know, you want more skin benefit? Do red light.
Yeah.
You want to be like more resilient to stress and bullshit? Do a sauna.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things, and unless you really try it, you're not going to know how it affects you.
Yeah.
Also, like jumping in the red light bed, our bed's quite powerful. You know, 12 minutes maximum.
Yeah.
Some panels you're doing half an hour.
Yeah.
And even at that half an hour, it's not even as strong as what this does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it comes down to experience as well.
Yeah.
Some people will jump in that bed and go, okay, it felt like I was lying in the sun for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel amazing.
Yeah.
Other people are like, no, I need to kill myself in the sauna
Yeah.
to make it feel like I've done something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just wasted my time.
Yeah.
So there's a psychological part as well as the physical part.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you a difficult question again.
God damn it.
Cryo versus sauna. Because one is hot, right? Get you hot. The sauna is going to get you hot. Cryo is going to get you cool. Now, it both produces heat shock proteins. What would you choose?
It's one of those answers as well. It depends. I really hate that you can't just say, this is the answer, that is the answer. It's like, it's grey. It's really grey. If you hate the cold, do cryotherapy.
Yep.
If you hate the heat, do sauna.
Yep. Do more of what you hate.
Yeah.
What you suck at. Do more of that.
That's what I would say in short. Like if you had one question to ask, I'd say do the one you hate.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're the type of person who doesn't like doing what they don't like doing.
Yeah.
So if that means you're not going to do it, then do the one you'll prefer.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've got more pain and inflammation, I would do the cryo.
Yeah.
Because it's just instant.
Yeah.
If you're highly stressed, super busy, even though if you're highly stressed, the sauna would be better, just do the cryo.
Yeah.
It'll just help push you into that spot a lot quicker.
Yeah.
In saying that, if you are super stressed and you're like borderline pushing you over the edge to getting sick, don't do any of it. Go sleep.
Yeah.
Go meditate. Do something passive that's going to put you into a better spot first and then do it.
Yep.
Because we don't want to be the straw on the camel's back, because even though it's a good stress, it's still stress.
Yep.
And so you can only handle so much before your body just goes, fuck you.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked quite a lot of the tech, right? We talked about the sauna, the red light, the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. We haven't really talked much about the normal tech. So you mentioned normal tech. People come in, they're going for a run, or they're hairdressers, they stand on their feet all day. That's helpful. Are they the main users for like the decompression pants?
A few people
compression pants, yeah.
Decompression.
Decompression.
That's the hyperbaric decompression.
Yeah.
So the compression boots, the Normatec, they were designed originally for lymphatic drainage.
Yes.
You know, so level 1 is a bit like a lymphatic drainage massage.
Yeah.
It massages towards the heart.
Yeah.
And it's very gentle.
Yeah.
Right? Just getting things moving. Level 7 is more like a boa constrictor. To be honest, I actually give everyone a free session just because no one knows what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
And that way people get more of an understanding and they go, okay, I can see how this is useful or not.
Yeah.
You know, the only people who haven't liked it so far are the people who don't like hugs. You know? Or if someone ignored my directions, if they went straight to level 7 and they weren't expecting it, then they're like, this is too much. Give me a break. I normally start people at level 3, then go to level 5, then go to level 7, all in their first session.
Yeah.
And that way they can experience it and build up to it.
Yeah.
After that, usually it's straight to level 7.
Yeah. I think for those of people who haven't tried normal tech, like the lymphatic draining, it's something to be experienced, you know, what it feels like. For me, I love it when I travel. If I'm on a plane for like 12, 14 hours, I go to my destination, I find the closest place that's got normal tech, and I'm just gonna do it, right? It just, because just all day, just decompresses, like all the saunas, sitting long period on a plane. It makes so much difference. Like in terms of just managing jet lag and the travel. Yeah.
It gets everything moving.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the main thing. When I travel, actually, I stand up and take as many breaks as I can.
Yep.
So if the flight's less than 4 hours, I'll sit in the window. I don't care.
Yeah.
If it's more than 4 hours, I've got actually the aisle seat.
Yep.
And then I'll go hang out near the toilet, start doing squats, push-ups, whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
You know, just to get out of the seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because naturally your body pumps lymph through muscular contraction.
Yep.
So if you're sitting like dormant and not moving, no muscles are moving anything.
Yeah. So Michael, it's really good to understand all the various technology, but I think what I want to summarize, it feels like, you know, it's a classic phrase. It depends where people are, what they're looking for, and what they should be going. Now, in terms of that, how often do you think they should be coming to a place like this?
The classic saying. Yeah, every time. Basically, it depends.
Yeah.
Though I do have a standard prescription, I tell people just to start, and then from there they can change their frequency after that, after a couple of weeks, to see how it affects them. So like we'll do a round later on and look at the equipment. I'll talk about a few different guests who have done different things.
Yeah.
But for now, I tell everyone, just pick one thing, usually the sauna, do it once a week for 3 or 4 weeks. That's it. See how it goes. Most people after the first session was like, that was fucking amazing. You know, I want to do it again. But I'm like, hey, look, cool, that's great. Do it again next week and see how you feel after that. Also, keep an eye on how you feel during the week.
Yeah.
And so most people find like that once a week is pretty good. Twice a week's even better. But really, you have to work out what makes sense for you. Because if we're saying, look, it's an hour in the sauna, maybe you can only do it once a week because of your schedule. You know, maybe the closest sauna to you is shit, so you have to go to another suburb to get to a better one. Yeah. And that's just inconvenient. So you're like, I can do it once a fortnight. It's a very different conversation when it's like, it's my shop. Yeah. I'm here every day. You know, I did a 30-day protocol the other day. Yeah. 30 days of sauna back to back. Yeah. Not everyone can do that. Yeah. You know,
I guess a lot of people are also wondering what's the minimum effective dose, right? Because you know that you need to frequent enough to feel a difference. Whereas if it's too few, you might not feel anything significant at all, right? Yeah. So yes, from what I'm hearing is even just do sauna just once a week, they should feel a difference.
Yeah, just start with that. Just give it a try. You know, and then, like I said, after 3 weeks, maybe try to do it twice a week for 3 weeks. Yeah. Then go once a fortnight for like 3 rounds. So that would be 6 weeks. You won't know until you do it. You know, we have this tolerance for the amount of shit we can take every day. Okay. I see literally with everyone, the more they sauna, the more shit they can handle. And even my friend we'll talk about later, he noticed when his friend wasn't sauning frequently. He actually even asked him, he goes, when was the last time you sauned? Because mid-conversation, the guy was just bitchy. Wow. And he's like, something's wrong. Like, when did you sauna? And he goes, I haven't sauned for 3 weeks. He goes, fuck, all right.
No wonder.
Yeah, you know. And so it really does depend, but at least try it once a week for a few weeks and then change the dose accordingly. Yeah. Because everyone's different.
I find that interesting that actually improves your resilience, right? Your ability to tolerate more stuff, which is important if you're interested in peak performance, because life is all about being able to face up to ever more increasing amount of challenge and stress without crumbling, which is effectively what your words.
Yeah, exactly.
Putting out with more shit. And
I mean, it's quite an important thing. Like I said before, everyone these days is a pussy. You know, we just want the easy way out. We want life to be easy. But like, greatness doesn't come from taking the easy road. Exactly.
So how long have you been on this journey? Since you started clinics, you've been biohacking yourself, with clients for how long?
The concept, the idea started 2015. The signing of the lease, the execution was August 2018. The Nightmare Fit Out opened December 2019. So 15 months of hell.
Yeah, wow.
Opened up December 2019, then something happened with 19 in the name of it.
Yeah.
So then we instantly got shut down and closed. 3 years of government bullshit. We eventually opened again. But it's been a process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I had a sauna
Yeah.
to get through half that shit.
Yeah. So what, in terms of your own personal journey, how have you transformed since you began?
God. Look, I'm still a child at heart. I do like to think I have grown up a little bit over the years. Constantly evolving, constantly learning. Business is not as easy as it seems. When you dive into something, you realize how much more goes into it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that's,
Sure.
yeah, it's been a massive eye-opener.
Yeah.
And like every time I'd see something, I'm like, why don't they do this? Why don't they just do that?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because that requires you to do all these other things too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I'm, yeah, becoming a lot more patient in some ways.
Yeah.
And understanding of a lot of other things.
Yeah. How about your own personal performance in terms of your mood, your sleep, ever since you start? Because less angry, right? That's a good start. What else have you benefited from doing your own biohacking?
It's quite interesting. So my performance is lower now than it used to be before, but that's only because I just haven't been putting in the work. Although my knowledge of things has definitely evolved and constantly learning, I still know I can get through things that the average person just won't.
Yeah.
Like I did the MS Gong ride. It's 82 or 87 kilometer cycle.
Yeah.
I didn't train. I just bought a bike, jumped on it and rode. The training I did for that was I got myself into ketosis, and I did that by fasting. Like in the week leading up to the event, I fasted for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Then I just went straight into a keto diet. Like that was my preparation. It was dumb,
Nice.
but I got through it. It's perfectly fine, and that was better than when I was carb loading. So I was like, okay, there's interesting ways you can adapt and do things with your diet. But yeah, it's interesting. Even though performance has gone down because I've been lazy, and not lazy but busy, I'm still seeing benefits along the way, and cognition's a lot better now than before, especially after the mold exposure that was cooked.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing for people to hear. Like you don't have to be doing it all the time. Once you build up to a certain level, right, you can throttle back, take it easy a little while, but you still maintain a big part of the benefit. Now, for people interested in starting and coming to visiting your lab or trying this out for the first time, what would you recommend for them to do? What would be a good way for them to start?
Probably just do a sauna.
Yep.
Come with a friend if you want. You can play your own music through the speakers inside the sauna. So you just connect via Bluetooth. It's a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
That really opens most people's eyes.
Okay.
Because a lot of these things sound messed up. Sound like it's going to be hard. Or, you can't control environment, whatever it is. Like it's funny, the red light bed, it looks like an old school solarium, and it looks like you close the lid, but like you can't close the lid. There's no latches. Yeah. Right. So I'm just like, just do it. You got nothing to lose. So I say to people, just try a sauna. That's usually the entry drug. To get people in. And then once they've done that, try the other things when you're ready. Not everyone likes the idea of going to minus 110 or 120 degrees Celsius. It sounds psychotic. It's actually quite enjoyable. It's very different. Cold air is different to cold water, and so when you're ready, do it. If you're not ready, at least just start with the sauna. Yeah. That's very easy to access.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Michael. I really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge about biohacking, all these different technologies, as well as giving really good advice on how people can get started. Now, for people to actually learn more about your clinic, where would they go? What to find out more?
We're currently redoing our website, so that should be nice and updated soon.
Yep.
So feelgoodnation.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
Our socials are feelgoodnationau because Feelgood Nation is obviously taken.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be a lot more active soon. But if you have any questions, just reach out on any of those platforms and then we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Cool. We'll make sure we post that in the show notes down there.
Sounds
cool. Thanks for your time.
All good.
All right.
Cheers.
Take care.
This is the cryo room. So the cool thing with this is, depending on if you're a giant or a midget, you know, we can pop it all the way up or put it all the way down. And my girlfriend is actually a midget, so she needs a booster step, so we cater for her as well. So in case she needs it, we go an extra step.
Wow, that's cool.
But yeah, so we get this thing, you know, ladies start at minus 110.
Yep.
And guys start at minus 120. As you get used to it, we can get colder. The most I've ever done is minus 155, which is there, but it can get to minus 170. That is ridiculous. God, you really don't need that temperature. So yeah, we do 3 minutes inside.
Yep.
And obviously we change the height accordingly.
Are there any contraindications for cryo?
There is. We can list them all later on. It's one of those things like, can you exercise? You know, are you dying on drugs or pregnant? If the answer is no to those things, if the doctor hasn't said you can't exercise, usually it's fine. There are a few things like Raynaud's you've got to be careful of. Although
Reynolds?
Raynaud's or Raynaud's, basically if your hands get cold, they basically go white, and it's like super painful. Yeah.
How about kids?
Yeah. I've had like 10-year-olds in here.
Yeah?
Yeah, I won't normally put kids inside.
Yeah.
I will stretch it if they're like an athlete.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a difference between a parent trying to show off because their kid's doing something cool and like someone who actually needs to use a therapy.
Yeah.
So I make that distinction and then just make a quick judgment call.
Cool.
In general, like most places don't do under 18s, but I had like a kid who was, I think he was trying to go to Europe to play soccer. Like he was at that level.
Wow.
You know, yeah, exactly. So if he starts getting contracts at that age, you know, it's very different to, oh, I want my kid to go get cold in a cryo. I want to record it. You're like, go away. I really don't want those people. This thing is the red light bed. There's so many cool things going on with it. The company's based in America. They've designed the beds to accommodate for NFL players. NFL players are bloody monsters.
Yeah,
like,
they're huge.
Yeah, they can 7 foot, 200 kilos, like monsters. So this thing's designed to take anyone in it.
Yep.
And I always joke and say, like, I've had Willie Mason in here, and he's an Australian giant. You know, he's 6'5". He used to play rugby for Australia. He's just this giant islander. And so if he can jump on this thing and it doesn't break, everyone's good. Yeah. Now, the maximum time you spend in this bed is 12 minutes on the normal settings. There are special settings that I don't really tell anyone about. We can save that for another day. But in general, just the light therapy, 12 minutes maximum.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a secret hack. So you have to put in, you know, in a certain combination and do it like a secret induction ritual to do.
Yeah, so, you know, you have to get naked, dance around it. The reason I don't tell people about it is because most people don't understand what it is. And they're like, oh, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, don't worry, just focus on the lights. This thing is still like probably one of the best machines there is out there. So we just focus on the light therapy only. But if people really know what it is and want to use the other things, then I allow some people to do it.
Yeah.
The sweat they get from using the clear light is a lot deeper. It's just very different to the sunlighting. The sunlighting just doesn't really feel the same.
Huh.
You know, and that's at the same temperature, same time, everything. So
spec-wise, they're the same, but it feels different.
Spec-wise, it's supposed to be the same, yes, but they feel completely different.
Right. Okay.
So it's a very interesting thing, and like, I haven't really gone out of my way to use sunlighting that much. I've used it once.
Yeah.
You know, so I would like to use it more so I can be more definitive on that.
Yeah.
But what I'll tell people is go out, try a few different places. You might hate the owner of it, so you might not want to go back anyway.
Yeah.
So just go try it out.
Yeah.
What do you got to lose? It's, you know, like $50 for a sauna or something.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
So just go out and try a few different places.